If you got lured in by the title, you're going to need a brief introduction to what I do around here. This channel is focused on documenting the libraries of Japanese game consoles. A short video for every game where I try to explain what it is, how to play it, give it a little bit of context, and hopefully find some interesting things about it. The video I published yesterday was on Pro Golfer Saru for the Famicom Disk System, a fairly obscure sports game whose big draw was its unique hole design. But while I was digging through the sparse information I could find about it, I came across something that got my attention. There was another Pro Golfer Saru game, and that one was the most poorly reviewed game in the history of Famitsu magazine. So I was intrigued. There's nothing I like better than a notorious game. Maybe it was too experimental and the new things it was trying to do didn't work. Maybe it's so buggy that everything just breaks down. Maybe it did something so heinous that nobody wants to talk about it. After I heard that Pro Golfer Saru was the bottom game, I had to know why. So I went out and bought the game. And then, to make sure that I could record it in decent quality, I also bought a Japanese Wii U. So I hope you're all ready for the definitive Pro Golfer Saru 2008 video. Okay, before I get into the game proper, what is Famitsu? Famitsu is the definitive Japanese video game magazine. It started out as Famicom Tsuchin all the way back in 1986. The magazine is published effectively weekly, though they skip certain weeks every year and there's a monthly digest version. But the key here is that it's always timely, and it has all of the things that you'd expect in a video game magazine. Previews, tips and tricks, and of course, reviews. The way that Famitsu reviews work is that they had 4 people play the game, and each give the game a score between 1 and 10, though in practice, scores below 3 are almost unheard of. Now I wouldn't call a Famitsu review score definitive. As I document system libraries, I sometimes look at the game reviews, and you'll find absolute classics getting middling reviews from Famitsu, while some adventure games and RPGs that even Japanese fans say aren't very good wound up scoring extra high. Still, it's worth taking notice when all of the reviewers love something or all of them hate something. In the case of Pro Golfer Saru for the Wii, all 4 reviewers gave it a 3, for a cumulative score of 12. And as near as I can tell, and I haven't been able to review all 40 years of Famitsu history to confirm it, only 2 other games have received a cumulative 12, and no one has gone lower. Also, I am absolutely getting those other 12s. There are at least a dozen or so games where at least one reviewer scored it a 2, but all of those wound up with cumulative scores of 13 or higher. As far as I can tell, at the time of this recording, Pro Golfer Saru is still tied for the worst game that Famitsu has ever reviewed. So what exactly is Pro Golfer Saru? Well, it started out as a comic by Fujiko Fujio, part of the team that's best known for creating Doraemon. The comic is about a young boy who looks kind of like a monkey, which is why his name is Saru, and he's a golf prodigy that's made his own special set of clubs. He draws the attention of an organization of evil golfers. The peak of Pro Golfer Saru's popularity was in the 80s, when a cartoon adaptation aired for several years. So in 2008, it was a bit of an old property. But it was still well known, one of those things that was in reruns forever, and the Wii was a console that was receptive to small games based on popular properties. So Bandai decided to make Pro Golfer Saru for the Wii. The developer 8ing, that's 8ing, not 18, was mainly doing ports of fighting games at that point. The next game they released after Pro Golfer Saru was Castlevania Judgment, so maybe not the best company. On the other hand, they were also the ones responsible for all the versions of Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, so in conclusion, 8ing is a land of contrasts. Now I'm not going to tease this out for you. Pro Golfer Saru is a real mess. However, it's not a really bad mess. It's the kind of thing that if it was one minigame in a package of 10 games, people would go, oh, I remember that one, it was kind of neat. But as something that's supposed to be standing on its own, and that was selling for 5,800 yen? Yeah, this would leave a bitter taste in people's mouths. There are 3 basic modes of play here. You can play a match game, which acts as the game's story mode, and your goal is to win the majority of holes. You can play a stroke game, where your goal is to just have the lowest total number of strokes, or you could practice individual holes. There are 6 characters in the game, 4 of which are unlocked by default, and the other 2 you have to unlock as you play. By default you have Saru, the daughter of the head of the Organization of Evil Golfers, and her secret ability is that she actually plays golf, a kung fu master who smacks the ball with a set of nunchucks, and an Australian guy who's drunk. For most of this footage, I was playing as Saru, because it's his game. When you start playing, the very first thing you have to do is pick which hole to play. There are 9 holes, and they're rated on a difficulty of 1 to 4 stars. By default, you'll play a total of 6 holes, but you could turn it as low as 3, or as high as 9. That's right, there isn't even a full golf course here. You have the option of letting the game pick out a random hole for you as well. The holes are generally some kind of wacky location, high up in the cliffs, with only a few safe spots where you can land. There's also a hole where you have to shoot your way through a graveyard, and a super long hole where the ball keeps landing in shallow water. When it's time to take your shot, if you're playing any golfer other than Saru, you can press the down and up buttons on the Wiimote to switch between a wood or an iron. Saru always uses the same club. Pressing and holding the B button will show Saru's bird friend, and that's how you can tell how the wind is blowing. You point the Wiimote at the screen, and target where you want to aim the ball with the cursor. Sometimes your golfer will make a comment, and that will throw off where you're trying to point at. If the cursor turns into a lightning bolt, that means you've got a special super shot if you aim right there. Hit A when you've got the shot you want, and then it's time to take your swing. You can take practice swings by pointing the Wiimote up and then rapidly swinging it down. Then the map will show you approximately where the ball would go. When you're ready to actually hit the ball, press the A button. And now you have a few seconds as your golfer tenses up and prepares to swing. You want to swing the Wiimote from pointing up to pointing straight down, exactly when that onomatopoeia is at its largest. If you miss it, then it screws up your shot. But if you hit it, you'll hear your friends cheering for you. Some of the golfers also have super moves that you can activate by pressing the 1 button. There are some effects that can be randomly applied to holes that can screw up your shot. If the hole is foggy, then you can't see where it's going to go on the minimap, and rain can reduce the power of your shot. When you reach the green, you're automatically aimed exactly where you need to be. Hit the A button, and you'll see a trace that the ball will be hit, with a dot sliding up it. Waggle the Wiimote when the dot is over the hole, and that will let you sink the putt. If you land really close to the hole, then you just automatically knock it in. After you complete a hole, the mysterious head of the Organization of Evil Golfers will offer you a choice of what kind of hole you want to play on next. And then you keep going until you've played out the game. If you win the match, then credits roll, and that's it. Once you know how the game is played, it's really simple, and you can beat this one in under 20 minutes from the first time you play. And that is literally everything in the game. Again, they were charging 5,800 yen for a golf game with 9 holes, a game based on a popular franchise that only included 6 of its characters, and golfing so stripped of features that it doesn't even feel like golf anymore. But all that said, it's still amusing. This is still a playable game. If I spent 100 yen on this, I'd be going, yeah, this was pretty neat. And I'm probably even going to break this out to play it with some people. The worst thing about Pro Golfer Saru is that it's shallow. It's the kind of thing that you can play once, enjoy that time that you spend with it, and then you're done. I have played so many games worse than this. So I'm really not sure what happened with Pro Golfer Saru to make 4 people so irritated with it. The 3s are usually reserved for games that are completely broken, almost non-functional. But that's definitely not the case with Pro Golfer Saru. This is a complete, perfectly playable game that just happens to not have a whole lot to it. I definitely recommend checking it out, as long as you're not paying 2,500 yen for a copy like I did.